That note, up next we have Mr. Debajyoti Ray Chaudhary, MD and CEO NeSL, who will talk about the rapid development of e-infra for BFSI. Before joining NeSL, Mr. Chaudhary was Chief General Manager at the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, where he took path-breaking initiatives like the implementation of the company's registered valuer and valuation rules 2017. He is a much sought-after speaker for his expertise on corporate insolvency. Mr. Chaudhary's vast experience in the field has made him a valuable asset to NeSL, where he has made significant contributions. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Chaudhary on the stage. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We all are looking forward to hear your enlightening thoughts.
I hope I'm audible. Yeah. MD of Bank of Baroda, Sri Sanjeev Chadha, top management of Bank of Baroda, and digital warriors of Bank of Baroda. I'm absolutely delighted to be here in this conclave with the theme of creating digital moats. In fact, our association with Bob has been extremely enriching. It was Bob which inspired us to create the infrastructure which could be scaled up rapidly. To give you a sense, when we started this journey of digital document execution, we're just doing around 2,000 transactions a day. And most of it was contributed by Bank of Baroda. In the recently concluded financial year, the month of March, we did upwards of 10,000. And now other banks are also joining the party. Of course, Bank of Baroda continues to be the undisputed leader. So in today's session, I was asked to speak on e-infra for BFSI. So I'll touch on the larger ecosystem, and then I'll focus on what we are doing as far as building e-infrastructure is concerned. Can I have a slide more? Yeah. So this has been circulating in social media for a while. And India seems to be in the global sweet spot. As per this, the probability of recession in India is zero, practically non-existent. So how exactly did this happen? So what we are seeing in economic growth is based on 4 pillars. I'll first talk about the massive infra development. I came from Bangalore to Mumbai around 2 days back. The new terminal 2 has just opened. And it's massive in every sense of the word. No queues there right now. And it's green. In many ways. Not just the trees which are all over the place, but it's a mobile which opens every door. Everywhere, just scan the mobile and every door opens. I was missing the Digi Yatra, but everywhere else, it is the mobile scan, it's totally paperless. And this is only in Bangalore. In Delhi, just around T3 is any case, IGI is any case one of the largest airports in India. Just around 100, 150 kilometers, the Jewar International Airport is coming up, 2024. It promises to be as big. In Goa, there's another airport. I didn't come to that airport. I landed at the other airport. In Mumbai, there's a Navi Mumbai airport coming up. There have been drone pictures of the massive highways which are coming at various places, Delhi, Mumbai. I just traveled on the Bangalore-Mysore highway. It's truly awesome. Some figures have been going around in social media. I cannot vouch for the same. What they say is that the kind of infra development which has happened in the last 10 years, India has not seen it for the last 60 years. I cannot vouch for these figures, but what is happening in the infrastructure space is actually visible. The next pillar for a sound, strong, sustainable economic growth is a sound banking system. All banks have shown robust results. Bank of Baroda is leading the way. Now there are many doubters. They say, is this the start of another boom and bust cycle? I would not believe so. For one, in the retail space, it's driven by this digital push, which is efficient. In the corporate space, I'm often told that the quality of underwriting has improved. I beg to differ. As a career banker, what is happening now is bankers are able to take informed decisions, which improves the quality of decision making. There are many tools which are there at the disposal of today's corporate bankers, which ensures better underwriting. One more important development, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. It's not often happened in corporate history. Not one, not two, but three large corporates have changed hands. Today, promoters of large companies are fearful. They are prepared to negotiate, come to a settlement, come to a resolution at the earliest signs of stress, distress, or anything which requires corrective action. The third key driver for economic growth is, of course, the direct tax reforms, both direct as well as indirect. But I'll talk of the indirect one first. GST is not just about simplification of the existing, there were multiple taxation schemes, and this GST brought about unification. It is also a brand new taxation structure, and very importantly, with an information technology backbone. So this is what has a multiplier effect. we'll see in a few slides how Aadhaar is the cornerstone of a digital economy. And the founder of Aadhaar, Nandan Nilekani, recently in a speech to startups, he talked of a word called population scale. What is population scale? Population scale is where you can leverage the digital infrastructure through innovation. How has this been done for GST? I'll give you an example. GST, of course, ensures formalization, and we'll discuss that later. But this GST database can be used in multiple manners. For example, GST gives you an idea of the revenues of the company, the invoices are there, so you have a realistic assessment of the turnover of the company. It makes working capital assessment much easier. I know of a TSP which has come out with a scoring model based on the GST data of corporates. So all this has multiplier effects. Finally, the fourth key driver, and this is where the theme of our today's session is on digital infrastructure. So very famously, this is called the Jam Trinity. It all started with Aadhaar, and that is the cornerstone of a digital economy. In, I think, 14 or 15, this Jan Dhan accounts came. Honorable Prime Minister then wanted a bank account for every Indian. As a banker, I know in the earlier days how difficult it was to open an account. We often played that we take time to open an account, but there were so many challenges. Many times the original documents, you can't make out. Photocopies were not legible. Then we have the next generation where the photocopies were so sophisticated, you cannot even make out which is the original and which is the photocopy. So one solution which enabled 500 million Jan Dhan accounts to be opened, that is Aadhaar. The third important development which helped in this digital economy was in 1617 or so, we had new telecom operator, rates came down. Today, in fact, our data rates are some of the lowest in the world, and data became accessible to all. And without that, our digital economy would just have not taken off. So let's see what are the important milestones in this digital journey. It all started, of course, with Aadhaar, Jan Dhan, mobile penetration, and then, of course, UPI. Initially, there were a lot of doubters. UPI is one of the success stories. If there's one area where we have surpassed China, that is as far as digital payments is concerned. We talked of tax reforms. I talked about the indirect tax reforms, but at the same time, direct tax reforms also, the tax rates were reduced to ensure compliance. What happened after this? Formalization. In fact, the way the GST was structured, it ensured that since you have to give your supplier's GST number, So it was an entire network. Your suppliers are also into the network. If you have to claim input tax, you have to give your suppliers. So all of them came into the network and came into the formal economy. What also helped? UPI. For UPI, need a bank account. If you do transactions through a bank account, so it's no longer hidden. So that's effectively formalization. What happened as a consequence of that? Increased productivity. I'll give you an example. Goods movement, of course, have improved because of GST. Trucks do not have to stop on borders. But there's another very simple aspect to it. And this, I have experienced it myself. I take a walk in Alsur Lake, and there's a coconut seller outside. So he has a UPI scanner, and a person has to just scan it, and there's a loudspeaker which says 25 rupees, 30 rupees goes. What used to happen earlier? If you were 25 rupees, somebody will come with a 500 rupees note. He'll say 5 rupees nahi hai, aap 5 rupees do. So how much time would go on in that? And then there's excess cash. You would have to get it deposited. So all this has totally gone out. And this guy says that not just do I collect my money, I also pay my supplier through UPI. So that's increased productivity. Credit availability. How does it happen? Formalization because of GST, because of UPI. And any banker, if he sees transactions in his account, it's so much easier to assess his working capital requirements. So credit availability is also there. Now, that's where we come in. And that's where you see that green semicircle. Credit is available. How do you give the credit? You need documentation. The person will have to come to the branch. He will sign at 25, 30 places. Sometimes you may take it blank. Then you have to store the document. And I'll recount my early experience. I think Sanjeev, who has been my senior in State Bank of India, he might recall, we had an inspection in State Bank of India. Just before the inspection, we realized 200 documents were missing. They were missing because the concerned field officer had taken it home to fill the documents. In digital document execution, and we'll talk in detail, all documents are sealed, signed, sealed, stored, can be accessed from anywhere. You don't need a fireproof safe. You don't be worried about termites biting into your documents. It is accessible 24/7 in a secure repository. So at the end of it, once you have DD, you have seamless credit delivery. So we are very happy that the economics survey of 2022-23 has acknowledged the potential of DD. And in fact, it used the word dematerialization of documents, the next wave of digitization. The analogy is being drawn to the dematerialization of shares, which totally transform the way securities trading happens. The economic survey also talks of the various advantages of DD, which of course I'll detail in the next part of my presentation. But before that, I thought I should also speak about ourselves, how suitable we are to be an infrastructure provider. So NeSL is India's only information utility. It is registered with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. So like a bank, we are also a regulated entity, and we are regulated under the provisions of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now, the question might arise, why a company which is under the provisions of the IBC should be into this domain of digital document execution? I will answer that question in a few slides from now. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code provides for the creation of the IU. There are regulations which lay down what should be our shareholding pattern, what should be our ownership structure, what kind of services we can do. Even this is provided in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Finally, the IBC also mandates all financial creditors to submit financial information to the IU. And financial information includes documents. So that's where our digital document execution comes in. So this is the shareholding pattern. Bank of Baroda is top of the charts. And we have other banks and financial institutions, LIC, depositories, insurance companies. And this is the regulatory environment. I had spoken of some of it earlier. But this last part on technical standards. Even as we increase our association with banks, it's very important to give banks the comfort that every bit of technical details, specifications required to keep the information safe and secure, this is there in the guidelines on technical standards. As I said, that we are a regulated entity. We are under close supervision and control of IBBI. So the board conducts an annual inspection. There's off-site monitoring, like banks, like RBI does for banks. Only in our case, it's more rigorous, because RBI has multiple banks. We have only one information utility. There's also IBBI technical committee, which reviews all these technical standards. We also have a governing board. The law mandates us to have a governing board, and it comprises of managing director, that's me. We also need to have independent directors. And a very important feature of a governing board is that we have an independent director who also looks at technology-related matters. And if you see the fourth column, the gentleman who's independent director in charge of technical matters, he's also chairman of our technical committee. So in the board of directors, we also have the shareholder director. If you see the third column, we also need to have an independent audit of our IT framework. This has to be done every year, and the report is considered by a governing board as well as by a regulator, IBBI. And finally, as I stated earlier, we have an independent technology committee comprising of very reputed persons. As I stated earlier, the chairman is also a member of our board of directors. So I thought also to sum up the attributes of a infrastructure provider. Firstly, we have a risk management framework. Our executive director is also the chief risk officer. We have a policy of non-discrimination. We hold the data with us as a custodian. We do not do any kind of data monetization. We are only a custodian of the respective banks. And finally, we also have a preservation policy. And that's extremely important. Of course, many banks prefer to also keep documents with them, but our technical standards provide, even after closure of a loan, we have to keep the records for 8 years. So now I'll come to the most happening thing today, which is our digital document execution. So this is what a CEO, ex-CEO of a large digital payment company said. I'm not giving the name, but I'm sure you'll guess who is he. He said, the guys at the bank sent me loan documents for IPO financing, a total of some 200 pages. That's fine. But there were some pages that even you had to sign multiple times. 200 pages, multiple times. I could never understand the point of multiple signatures, other than to remind you that taking a loan should not be easy. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, in RDD, you affix your signature only once. Only once, that's it. And the technology ensures that signature gets implanted as many times as you want. Every page, top you want, it can be done. Bottom you point, it can be done. Every page it can be done. But you affix your signature only once. So don't our customers deserve this? I recently had a meeting with a senior executive in RBI. And of course, most senior executives and bureaucrats don't take loans, so they don't realize these issues. But as you are aware, Reserve Bank of India has asked this locker document to be done again. So this senior executive of RBI had to go to some branch, and he said, I had to sign at 40 places. So then I told him, see, this is technology. You put your DSC or Aadhaar only once, that's it. So now I'll just give you a synopsis as to how we came into this DDA business. Because as we saw earlier, we are an information utility under the IBC. No, default can be established. We also issue a record of default, which helps in initiation of insolvency proceedings. So record of default establishes default. The digital document execution ensures that the proof of debt is also provided. Now, if you were to initiate insolvency, you would have to give a copy of documents. If you see the NCLT, I keep on going there, and I see tomes of papers, photocopied documents. You cannot make out what it is, but our poor bankers have to sign each and every page. Digital document execution, if documents are stored in digital format, one does not have to sign. Because documents are signed and sealed digitally. They cannot be tampered with, and they can be produced as it is, if required. And believe me, this is not just for initiation of insolvency proceedings. Today, as we'll see later, we do a lot of digital document execution in the corporate space. So typically when due diligence goes on because of a merger or amalgamation or acquisition, so all documents need to be scrutinized. How do you do that? You give photocopies, you scan, authenticate each of them. You'd rather give them in digital form. So as I said, this information utility provided for submission of information and also documents. But document submission was always a challenging proposition because it required many pages to be photocopied, uploaded, and that's how we came into this DD business, where the documents could be seamlessly flow from the IU to whichever adjudicating authority, or for the purpose of merger or equation, it can flow seamlessly in digital format, and in a manner where the verification can be done very, very easily. Finally, the documents which we have, which we provide you, has evidentiary value. That means it can be produced in a court of law, and we also provide a certificate under 65B of Indian Evidence Act. That means the document which has to be valid under 65B of Indian Evidence Act have to be executed in a certain manner. And we provide this certificate that this document has been executed subject to the conditions specified in the Indian Evidence Act. So see, there are some of the highlights. It is, as we saw, we started this under the guidance of Ministry of Finance and IBBI. It's a fully automated contract execution platform. 23 state governments. I would just like to add here, yesterday night we also got approval for Uttarakhand. So now we are 24. So we have now only 2 remaining states.